name is Allie Belzer. I am a licensed professional counselor, a specialist in experiential education, and a clinical adventure therapist.
My name is Amanda Reedy, a licensed clinical social worker working as a mental health therapist. We believe therapy is a great tool for healing. However, we want to demystify what healing can look like, as in our experience, people care for themselves in creative, intuitive, and determined ways.
Each episode, we will get curious about healing that is outside traditional talk therapy and deconstruct how healing can be a practice that is innate to who we are. Just as singing is to birds and making honey is to bees, it's just what we do. Let's get it. Hi all, thanks for tuning in. We are jumping right back in with part 2 of our conversation with Katie Asmus, owner and founder of the Somatic Nature Therapy Institute. In this episode, Katie walks Manda and I through designing our own rites of passage and ceremonies that our systems are calling for. We get pretty vulnerable and deep in this episode. May whatever needs to reach you, reach you. Stay close. Thanks for listening.
So many things are clicking for me. So I'm an IFS therapist, so internal family systems.
Yeah.
And when doing a true IFS session, it's very meditative, where you're dropping into your somatic system. And eventually you can get to this place of unburdening. And IFS will offer to say, what would you like to release this burden to?
Yes.
And as choices, I tend to say the elements: fire, water, earth, air. And it is so interesting to see that certain wounds or pains or burdens want certain elements or have a very clear pull.
Ooh.
So for folks who maybe would be surprised, well, like, you're saying that this is so personal, do I actually have any insight? When one really drops in, your body will tell you what it wants. It will be very clear, like fire.
Yes.
No, this is a wound that needs water. This is a burden I've been carrying that needs air. This requires earth. And in my sessions here in an office, all of that is imaginative, which we know is so powerful. Like, our brains are so powerful that can rewire our relationship to that, to what we're carrying.
Yes.
But when you add the sensory experience and bodily experience of actually burning something, having the fire, feeling it, the warmth, watching something burn, or feeling the water, I just imagine it will make those experiences even stronger and make them last, and make them, because you have more of a bodily memory of what it was like to release that.
Yes. It's so
feeling.
tangible.
Yes.
It's so experiential.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ooh, that made me think of something else I want to say, because it's a really big thing that comes up, which is in ceremony, when we do this, when we go through this, whatever it is, with intention, with our full body, then often, well, I'll just use myself as an example. I did a letting go ceremony many years ago, and I was doing it with a mentor. And the next day I woke up, and it was around my inner critic, actually. And I woke up and I was like, it's still there. Oh my gosh. And it didn't work. And my mentor said, well, just give it some time. It kind of has a life of its own. And so one of the things that I also tell people is, when you do the action, right, it's like you're planting a seed, and often that intention takes on a life of its own. And the more you water it, it might grow a little faster, but you've just put something into motion. So just when you were speaking that about the power, but then also the power of movement, it just came up to say, to give permission that, like, oh, yes, it takes, and when I do quests with people, wilderness quests with solos, I always say this ceremony is a year ceremony. And so you do the thing, you go out on the land, you come back, but it takes a year for it to really integrate into your body and your life. And I think also holding that framework is really helpful and gives permission to that this is a process. It is even our relationship with the ceremony is a process. Yes.
I also, something that came up, I'm going to backtrack here.
Yeah.
But you mentioned like there's the disintegration, the moving on from something, and then of course the reintegration, incorporation.
Yes.
And then there's this really tough middle nowhere land. And I find so many clients, and I found myself saying it at many points in my life, is, well, how do I get over this?
Yes.
And something in myself is calling for ceremony to be in it, to be in the middle place fully. And not, we so want to bridge straight from one to the other. And like, we spend so much time in the middle. And I wonder if I've given that enough time, the feelings of discomfort that come with the nothing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you're right. It is so common. Nobody really wants to be in the discomfort of the middle. William Bridges, who wrote Transitions, I saw you nodding before. I don't know if you know that book. He said this.
I read it on your site's recommendation.
Oh, nice. Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah.
There's this line in it,
good.
and I'm not going to say it exactly, but it always stuck with me. And he says something like, being in the liminal is like lying beneath the floorboards, waiting for somebody to discover you're there. And when I think of it, I just get this feeling of like, is anyone ever going to find me? Is anything ever going to change? Am I going to be stuck in this underneath the floorboards forever? And so there's something about, right, first of all, just to normalize, it is so uncomfortable. It is so uncomfortable. And we want to do something. And in that space, there's nothing to do to fix it. It actually requires going inside and listening on the most subtle, the most subtle level that we've ever listened to ourselves, because in reality, if it's authentic, the new state or what's right or what's next has to really come through, be evoked from the inside out. And it's not something that's clear. And so it's a finding our way by listening, not acting too soon, not making a choice just to get out of the discomfort. And it changed, things always change for sure, but it can be years. It could be years. But if we keep listening, really, our inner guidance is actually going to take us to that next place, to what's actually true and authentic now. And that is something we have not learned. And, we can pick up our phone and turn a switch and take a pill and all the things at every moment that but to really, really hang out in the unknown is profound, but it's really, really challenging. I'm wondering, do you assess of this piece of considering what you're going to do, but do you want support around developing what you're going to do?
Yeah, kind of deliberating with you of here's what could be. Hearing you walk us through something might be a powerful example for people who might be listening in.
Great.
If you're willing.
Yes, totally. Okay. Yes. Okay. Well, do one of you want to go first?
I might need to think. I should have journaled it.
Oh man, her talking about it, my body is having a significant reaction.
What's going on?
I'm so in the liminal space because I'm 3 months postpartum.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking about the ceremonies that we do culturally around bringing a life into this world, and that the baby shower is very stuff-based of here's what you need to have this child and to take care of. But when you mentioned rites of passage, when it's time for rites of passage, it's identity based, and I have never felt a larger identity shift than shifting into parenthood.
Yes.
And
wow.
feeling how much grief there is amongst all of this joy and new life, but it's very hard to even imagine then who am I
Yes.
now that I have these kids.
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. What is that like to even just feel and acknowledge here?
Yeah, I mean, I feel it in my throat, right? This like tension of who am I? Who was I before? Who am I now?
Yes.
As a mother, but am I anything? Can I be anything outside of that?
Yes.
That even like choosing to do this podcast with her is like a little love letter to myself to say you can exist outside of this space of mothering.
Yes.
And it was very hard to get 3 hours of time today, and this is the first time that I've spent this amount of time away from my infant.
Wow.
So
oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm just very much in the thick of it. And it's very hard to see an end sight because there's not really an end point. It's just, how do I integrate?
Yes. And thank you for sharing that. I just feel it as you say that. And really, I think it's so important. I just feel the profundity that you just named because I think this is so common. And with new parents, and I'll even say new mothers, because mothering is different than other roles. And there's something about this culture, I mean, in the US, right, that I feel like people are just like, are you so excited? Are you so happy? And yes, but there's a lot of things. It's a lot of things. And I think a lot of the other harder things and complexities don't really get talked about as much and don't get acknowledged. And people aren't going like, wow, how are you doing with all that you've lost? As you've stepped into this incredible miracle, but like, holy cow, how's your heart? How's your soul? How's your sleep? All the things that just are different, really. Like everything's different, almost, so many things are different. And I feel like there is often a lot of grief that there isn't space made for, whether it's because the culture is not making space or then we don't even know to make space. And again, there isn't that safety or empathy or attunement to really give your system the space to grieve, along with celebrating or whatever else, or surviving, or all the different experiences that are coming up. Yeah. How is it? And just to acknowledge that in this moment.
Yeah, I notice an exhale a little bit of just having it be witnessed by somebody else. Yeah, and then the parts are saying also this, like what is easy for others is no longer easy for you. What's easier for your spouse is not available to you as your child's sole source of nutrition. What the amount of freedom and time and autonomy, bodily autonomy, isn't available. It's just to even name that. I can feel like my heart relax a little bit.
Yes. Oh, I love hearing that. And just like that feels so important. So important. Yeah. I'm curious, as you think about doing a ceremony around this, what's realistic for you, or what are you thinking in terms of like amount of time or when, or what's even possible given everything you just shared?
That's one where I have to really drop in. Like I feel I need to be holding my baby while this happens. I think we believe, well, one, I have an opinion that society doesn't welcome children. They don't really want kids to be a part of visible culture. And there's something of like, oh, you need to return to yourself, or like take time for yourself. Do that. I'm like, I can't. So in order, like, a ritual actually needs to be with me and my child. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And is there anyone else that you think you would want or needs to be there, either because they're part of the ritual or to hold space for the ritual or to witness?
Yeah, it feels like the people who are the most committed to seeing, I have 2 children, but this is my second and last, who are committed to seeing them raised and being a part of holding them through their whole life. That those are the people that I would welcome into that space.
Beautiful. And do you have an idea if you know who those people would be?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you have a sense of what the intention would be for the ceremony? I mean, you've been pointing to it, but if you were to
Yeah, that's what I have to listen a little. I feel a call to water, and almost like a baptism, but in a untangled from our, maybe more rigid religious thinking, but something that is honoring of like their life, but then my life.
And kind of you as a separate being from them?
Separate and forever integrated.
Yes.
Like I can never be separate.
Right.
Really.
Yes. Yeah.
So to have them be a part of some kind of experience of like, of welcoming the new me that's been transformed by having children, that isn't separate from them, but also has some autonomy. It's like separate and not at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm imagining, maybe even perceiving a grief that's present with also the aspects that you are or have been letting go of in this. Is that true?
Yeah, definitely. And the emotion that's coming up is the discomfort of asking others to see me go through an experience that feels very vulnerable, even though I have very safe people.
Yes.
It's just I have a part of me that's very like, we don't let other people see us, but please come and celebrate the kids, right? Like, I'm a part of that culture. When I'm like, we need more ceremonies for mothers, but I'm like, but not me. Please focus on the children. I don't want you to see me fully.
Yes. Oh, well, I have lots of compassion for you as you say that, and just feeling like your role as a helper in the world in many ways. And maybe it's been safer, more familiar to like be the helper. And so it makes sense that it is what you're speaking to is so core to who you are and to your life at this point. It's very vulnerable. And there are so many pieces that are interwoven with that. And like we were speaking about, I think so much more complexity than we talk about really very openly in our culture. And so it feels like even in this moment, as you're turning toward it, there's something about making space for more of it, for more of your experience to be here for you and also to be seen, which is vulnerable in because it's so core and it's so personal and meaningful and not wrapped up in a bow.
Yeah.
I'm also coming back to our talk of choice, and that by dropping in even just slightly into the discomfort of being seen, you heard the voice, I need people to see me do this.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Yes. Yeah. And do you know? Yeah. And so I have a sense you might want to sit with it more, but so, doing this with your children there, holding your baby, at least for part of it, people that are committed to your children will know them in their lives and be with you in this process. And something about really making space for the multiplicity of emotions and identity, just different ways that this is impacting your identity and your felt sense of self and the reality of your life. And I just wonder if there is a letting go portion of the ceremony. So, like I talked about ceremonies of these different stages, but all of them typically have or can have all of the stages represented. And I wonder if there's something about just making space to acknowledge what you're letting go of in order, or you have to just make this choice or say yes to this experience. And then the space maybe after for like hopes, or what is it that you are saying yes to? It's kind of like, vows in a wedding, but it's like, what are you saying yes to in your life as you're taking this step? But almost first the conscious sort of putting down of the what's been sacrificed or is being given in order for the yes to happen.
I have to put some language to what that feels like. Or what that means. What are my hopes? I do know I have language right now, a little bit of like, well, my life is on hold right now because I have two very small children and a little, I have this little baby. My life is on hold. And it's like, my life is happening right now.
Yes.
I am in my life right now. It's like, okay, my career is partially on hold, but my life isn't on hold. So figuring out how to honor what life looks like in this very specific season of two kids under 2.
Oh my goodness. Yes. And I just think here, like the parts of you too. And that when you say my life is on hold, but my life is not on hold, this is my life. But I get curious about what needs aren't getting met, or what parts of you feel like I can't get my need met, or I need to wait because now's not a good time. And even would it be beneficial to look at what are the parts that are afraid or like have a need that, you could look at as it's not going to look the same as it has, but what are the needs that can actually get met, maybe creatively or in, maybe less amount of time, but I feel like what parts think they're getting put on hold. Cause I think about, it's like, not now, no time for your needs, but it's like, what, even just acknowledging what those are for yourself, that might be part of the prep or part of the ceremony, could be really helpful in this process.
Right. Yeah. And then how do I treat this time in my life as also what needs are being fulfilled of mine?
Yeah.
What I feel so appreciative for. How can I view this as a truly sacred time for these tiny little beings that I'm responsible for? And how do I feel that sacredness for my role in that. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And as you say that, again, I feel like that taking that time first for the grief or the letting go or connecting with the needs, then will open up that space to feel more like, okay, yes. And turning toward there's a little more space to choose, or to choose with intention how you're holding this time.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a couple other questions that feel important. One is, and maybe you're going to sit with this. And again, if you get the ceremony guide, it'll ask you all these questions. So it'll be really helpful. But do you want somebody else to facilitate you in this so that you don't have to hold the container?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That was fast. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And do you know who you would like to do that?
I feel like little my friend Kari is coming to Boise very soon, and she's a chaplain, and I trust her spiritual
prowess.
Yeah, great. And I have almost been waiting for something because I've felt the call to ritual outside of a church setting for my kids for a long time. Yeah. So I'm like, I want some kind of blessing for them that doesn't have to be necessarily a
religious
traditional baptism.
Yeah.
And I just got a text from her today that she's coming into town. So I might be like, can you please be in charge of this service?
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I feel your trust, like your real trust that she can hold the space and facilitate, and she would be a good ally in that way.
Yeah.
Great. I'm curious if there's anything more that you would like support on in this moment from me, or if that feels like enough in this moment, just to sort of take with you, look at the guide. I know you haven't seen the guide, talk to your friend, and start start that process.
Yeah. Is there something I'm missing, or is there anything in your experience of creating ceremony that you recommend or that you've seen be really meaningful for folks in the past using maybe water? I just feel water's the element, but I don't know. I don't have anything clear in my head of what that would look like. Yeah.
Ooh. Well, one of the things that comes is like washing, like washing of hands, washing of feet. And when I think about that, just some associations that come up for you in this situation, twofold. One is that it could be associated with the letting go, and whatever it is that you're acknowledging that you're letting go or putting down. Might even be a putting down. Ooh. Like, so you might put something down and then have somebody else like wash your hands, and that might also be symbolic of needing more support and being willing to receive support in a new way than you've had to in this role and with this responsibility.
Yeah. I have to think on.
I have a little movie in my head.
Okay.
That just tell me what it feels like.
Yeah.
I like the idea of like holding a burden or something, but I pictured like, I'm really called to like Boise River, like you're raising your kids here.
Yeah.
But to take a stone or something that represents what you have been carrying, grief, discomfort, and loss associated with this celebration, carrying it in the river with you, you do submerge as your kids wait for you on the shore, and you come out and wash their hands and feet in the water that had just embraced you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all very moving to me right now.
That was moving?
just all of it. Yeah. Just giving myself permission to even feel or think about this deeply, and then inviting others into this level of woo that you and I are very comfortable with, the woo of it all. Yes. But to invite others to witness that too, and allow that to be powerful is also.
And I think of the power of someone saying what you are feeling is sacred.
Yeah.
Ooh. Ooh, yes, like someone actually explicitly saying that in the ceremony.
Yeah. That it's worthy of this level of intention.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was moving to me.
Yeah. Good job.
Wow. So what I would say is I would start journaling all these different pieces. And I mean, another question, and I don't know if you want to say anything about this now, would be, how do you want to begin? How do you want to end? But that also might come together more when you know where you're going to be, who's going to be there. How do you want to mark for yourself the beginning and the end, and creating intentional space? But I think if you kind of journal all these different pieces that you already know, and then obviously Allie's a resource for you here, support, and your friend, and if you were to say, here's what I know, and I'm open to your questions, your ideas, your facilitation, what comes up for you as I share what I'm already thinking about. Because I think, like I said, once you decide you're going to do it and when you're going to do it, like I wouldn't be surprised if you get little ahas, like, oh, this thing needs to be a part of it, or, oh, this action might need to be a part of it, just for yourself. But then having, even like we're doing now, but with your friend who would be facilitating it, she might have an idea or a question or clarification or something. And so then it's co-created, but it's also, and right for you. And it gets to evolve as you get closer to the time. So, I mean, it's not fully formed, but but it feels right. Like there's something that feels really important here.
Yeah, that was cool to witness. That you just knew. That was really cool.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Allie, do you want to do a little planning?
Is it my turn?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I got that too immediately. Like, So what came up immediately, I didn't have really anything until you said, is there anyone that you would want there to witness? And my body responded with like, no. I need a solo. But to have someone hold space that I leave and return to.
Yeah. Great.
I picture when I did my own like massive soul searching backpacking course. I had a solo. We all had a solo for 2 nights, and I got nothing. Like I felt so ungrounded and untethered. And I think a large part of my personality has been this mascot, this chameleon. And that in the times to look inward, I feel really lost. This has been changing as I see clients and I like walk them through the process of finding themselves and like hearing the call from myself being like, we need that too.
Yes.
But I'm scared. Like last time I had this solo, like it felt like there was nothing inside me when I wasn't engaging with someone else or with a purpose or with humor. And so there's part of me that's really calling for that, and similar, like a part that's really scared.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ooh, yes. I want to share something as you say that. One of the things that I always say when people do solos, because I lead solo programs, is there are two biggest fears that people often hold when they're going out. And one is that nothing will happen. And the other one is that something will happen.
Yeah.
So I just to like normalize, I mean, I hear that it felt like grounding and you're like, will anything do I want to go? Will something happen or will something happen?
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious. First, like, thank you for your vulnerability here and just and I hear you listening, and there's something about moving toward the vulnerability. And I hear like a deep question that's, and there's also a fear, like, what if I find nothing there? And also there's something there. There's something I really need to listen to and to learn to listen to even more closely and subtly in a bigger way.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm curious, as you think about it, and this is logistical, but it feels important, is how long of a solo do you think will you do?
I think a night would be fine. Maybe 24 hours. 24 hours. Yeah.
So like sun up to sun up?
6 hours. Sun up to sun up. Yeah.
And do you have a sense of where you would do it? I mean, you don't have to say exactly where, but just if you have a sense.
Probably here in Idaho, we have so much public land, and part of me is like, it would be really cool. Like I do this, I have this thing for myself, and I'm like, it'd be really cool if we made it a big thing and like multiple people did solos, and then we'd all come back and I'd lead a debrief. And then like I immediately take myself out of like,
good catch. Really good catch. Yes. Yes.
So I was brainstorming. I was like, oh, we could do like that one big, like a beautiful campground in Featherville, because then like everyone can go.
Yeah.
So I might need to chew on that a little more and like maybe think of something.
Yeah.
It's just me. It's just me.
Yes.
It's so funny how different our systems can be, because once you said I need to do a solo one, my system's like, I should have said I needed to do a solo one so I didn't have to be seen by other people. And you're like, I'm regretting saying I did solo because I should have invited other people in it to be easier. I'm like, I want to do it by myself because they're my feelings and I don't want anyone else to look at them.
And I'm like, if I'm worried about other people's feelings, I don't have to worry about what's going on.
Right.
Yeah. Do peace.
Exactly.
Doing a pod. Yeah.
Oh, so good. So good to be able to see that come up.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that one of my mentors said, tell on yourself. Like, oh, you just told on yourself.
Yes.
Here's this.
I did. I caught myself.
Yes. So solo 24-ish, maybe a little bit more hours, supported, sent off and welcomed back by someone or ones.
I think maybe just one or two, and then really it's funny, like I just know, but what needs to happen is like I don't say my intention out loud with all this beautiful language that I'm pretty capable of.
Yeah, she is. Yeah.
And I come back and I don't someone is like physically holding space, maybe holding me.
Love that.
But I don't debrief my experience. Not in that moment, at least. I'll tell you about it the next week or something, but maybe it's fully mine.
And let it be messy and not imperfectly
wrapped up in
gorgeous
a
written language of
all the things I found out. Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh. Yes. And so with that, do you know, you don't have to say it out loud, do you know your intention? If you were like to make an intention statement, is it clear in this moment, or is that something you would want to spend a little more time with before you go out?
I think it has to be really simple.
I like to listen to my impulse, listen to what is.
Maybe just listen, or honestly, like, it's our podcast tagline and we say it to each other all the time, but just like broad statement, stay close.
Stay close to your feelings, to your body, and to each other.
Yeah. I say that a lot, and I don't do it.
I love that. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Do you think that you would stay in one spot or move?
I would probably be within like a smallish area. But I want access to water. And I want access to trees. And if I was to do like a short walk, like peak ascent or something. So like small area, but versatility. I think I have some places in mind that could work.
Great. And then I know you do this kind of work, but I just want to say, make sure you tell somebody where you're going so that they know where you are.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And have you ever done a medicine walk or a day walk? There are different kind of terms for this process.
It probably, the concept sounds really familiar, but I want you to explain it anyway.
Yeah. So this is a process, and I learned through the lineages of School of Lost Borders and Asmus Valley Institute. They kind of have different forms of doing this. And the idea is it's kind of a mini quest. It's a solo, right? Where there's a conscious beginning, conscious end. You're going out with a question or a statement. So your intention question or intention statement. And the idea that everything that happens between the beginning and the end thresholds is in some way an answer or response to your question or intention. And from there, you just let yourself wander. And that could be your attention wanders, your feet wander, and you let yourself be drawn to where you're drawn. So you don't think too hard about what is this telling me while you're there. You're just being drawn. So it might be, I'm being drawn to the water and I just want to sit at the water, and I end up staring and watching the water for a while. And then I get hot, so I go in the shade, and then I'm exhausted, so I lay down and I nap, and I have this dream. And it's that in and of itself, following the draw, just like, what am I drawn to now? What am I drawn to now is the process, and anything can happen. And within that time, you might do a ceremony within the ceremony. You might go like, oh my gosh, I want to write vows to myself. I want to, do a cleanse or something, or you might not, but that you just really keep listening and being drawn. And then it's something that, then it like integrates over time. Wow, what was that? How did that relate to my intention? What did that have to tell me about my intention? So anyway, that's a process that just, a ceremony that just came up as you were sharing your intention and just what was coming to you, what you imagined it might look like.
I like that a lot. And it feels really validating to the piece of me that really resents my ADHD, because I will take like moments for myself to be truly me. And I call it my like staring time or like my putter time. So like on Friday mornings, I do this thing where I let myself completely wander and like whatever my attention is drawn to, whatever to do. And like the house gets clean and like I feel really within my space and I do the things exactly what comes up in the moment and I feel so at peace. But like this is not a way that people are like allowed.
You're like,
right.
to exist, get it done, productivity.
Yes.
Yeah. And then my partner Sarah would be like, what are you doing? And I'm just like, just getting my staring time in because I can sit and do nothing and my brain will just wander. So I really like this concept because it is like small ways that I do stay close to myself even now is allowing wander.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That is really cool. And I'll just offer another thought. And I think I appreciate your listening to yourself. And you said just the piece about, not speaking before you go out, maybe not speaking when you come back.
Yeah.
One of the things that we often say is when you go home from a solo, don't talk about it for at least 48 hours. So let it percolate. And then if and when you do talk about it, do it intentionally. So is there someone that you can tell your story to, and then you either just listens or you get reflection back from, mirroring in some way so that you get to hear some of your story back. And obviously, as a therapist, who you would trust to do that, or you could ask for exactly what you want. Like, please don't interpret, or please don't tell me about your experiences, like what I would want is to hear. And one way you can do that is even have someone repeat some of the words and phrases that they heard you say, or things that occurred to them or something. But there is a piece about incorporation, bringing it into the body, the ceremony itself, which is, putting words to it, having it somehow, having it seen and reflected back, that can be really helpful. But I think there's something very important, like you were saying, of doing it in the right time with the right person or people in the right way, where it actually can be nourishing and deepening versus something else habitual.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, cool. Scary. I hope you pick me to deepen. Obviously. Yeah. The other part of this, Katie, do you have any more questions first before I
was just going to ask you if that felt like enough support, or do you want to get anything else in place before we stop this piece?
No, I feel really good about this. And like, I think I knew I wanted to do a solo, but I was imagining all these like flowery things, and I'm going to not do that now. So I think that that was really, really helpful.
Great.
So yeah, thank you so much. 2 hours with you has absolutely flown by.
I did also, if you get stuck and you need any clarification, or there's like, wait a minute, what do we do here, or something, reach out. And I mean, just let me know, and I'm happy to just touch in if there's something that's coming up in the rest of the planning process. Well, thank you. It's so fun to do this with you.
Thank you. Yeah. This was sweet. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who's eventually going to listen to this. And Katie, we always end with a stay close. Stay close.
Thanks so much for listening to That's My Therapy. As a general disclaimer, the topics discussed in this podcast are just one unique perspective, not prescriptive mental health advice. May you find healing where it finds you. If you are feeling suicidal or in need of immediate help, you can reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by dialing 988.
Okay. I'll just send you a bunch of stuff and then you could do whatever you want with it all. Yeah.
Yeah, never stop emailing me is what I would prefer.